All right, Jay, that was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for that tour of the warehouse. Let's head over to the conference room. Let's see what some of my top picks for Pesach are. Okay, so before Jay took us through the warehouse, I did a quick little lap through the warehouse myself, and I picked out what I believe are some of my favorite QPR wines. We talk about QPR as quality price ratio, and these are not necessarily the trophy wines. We all know about that special edition that Jay pointed out, or the Atir Forests, or the Castel Grand Vins. There's some really incredible wines out there, but I think the most interesting thing is when you can find a wine that's at a great price point and also delivers great value by being just a great flavored wine. Now, Jay and I did not talk about the wines that are sitting here in this box right now, but I'm going to let Jay pull some of them out one by one, and we'll talk a little bit about why I think that these are wines you should check out this Pesach.
Okay, so we know what my favorites are. Let's see what Gary's favorites are and see if they're similar or dissimilar. Just gonna, oh, look at that. Binyamina Reserve. This particular wine is the Shiraz, and actually that's the one I chose, which is really interesting.
It's one of the ones that we each selected.
But in terms of the entire line of reserves from Binyamina, they all represent a great value, and they've been, boy, chucking away in people's minds and hearts because lots of them are being sold. I also mentioned Shiloh. Not specific wines in Shiloh, but this is the Barbera, I presume. And what's great about this Barbera is that it's an unusual variety that comes from Israel. Great choice, Gary.
If I may, Jay, you know, one of the reasons why I picked the Barbera actually is it's part of the Shore series. Now, you know, Shiloh makes some gorgeous wines in their Secret Reserve, their Sode series, and their Mosaic, but the Shore series happens to deliver tremendous value. And like you said, I went for a couple of interesting varietals, and the Barbera is a pretty interesting varietal.
Great. Let's see what Gary's next wine is. Oh my goodness, something I completely missed, and Gary, you're right on target with this. Pacifica, brand new wine. This is their Pinot Noir from the Pacific Northwest, from Oregon. First kosher Oregon wine, especially Pinot Noir, that's actually bottled there. Wonderful wine by the same guy who makes the New Zealand wine from Goose Bay. So that's a great choice, Gary. Barkhan Classics, what a value this is. You know, it's not only the largest selling, or I should say either the first or largest selling wine in Israel, it's also now literally the largest selling wine outside of Israel from Israel. It's the largest selling Israeli wine in America, it's the largest selling Israeli wine in Europe, etc., etc., and this at about $10.
Jay, we've actually gone back-to-back on the Pinot Noirs, and one of the reasons why I brought the Barkhan Classic Pinot Noir is it's a lighter wine. You know, there's a lot of amazing Cabernets out there, and I think that there's a lot of consumers who really know how there's some great Cabernets, but sometimes you don't want necessarily something so bold. And a nice Pinot Noir, this is actually something that I recommended last Pesach that my parents pick up a case of. I'm probably going to do the same again this Pesach.
I hear you. And Gary, you and I guess great minds think alike, right? Alexander Valley Cabernet. Wow. What a complex, wonderful, delicious wine under $30 about 30 bucks in most markets, and a wine that,
again, we're talking value on this one. So again, this is probably the most expensive wine that I have in the bottle, but it's a $30 bottle
in the box, you mean?
In the box that I believe delivers the value of a $50 or $60 wine.
Great choice, Gary. Let's see what else we've got here. Wow. Boy, do we really have kindred spirits here, I guess. This wine, Carmel Single Vineyards White Riesling, is brand new. It's just out this Pesach. Also, delicious wine, very high scores. You want to tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, you know, what I like about it is it does come from a single vineyard from the Kayumi Vineyard, where the Kayumi Vineyard is producing some great wines. You actually pointed out the Kayumi Shiraz. Now, I like this one because I find it to be incredibly refreshing. It does have that little hint of sweetness, but it's a dry Riesling. It's incredibly refreshing wine, really tasty, and as you pointed out, that would be great for a Yontif day kind of meal.
Especially a lot of people on Yontif, I'll probably get into trouble for this, but a lot of people on Yontif day meals go to either parve or dairy meals, and if you're going to a parve or dairy meal, that wine is a perfect wine. Let's see. Oh, Perrage Petita, excuse me. This is from Capsanis. It's their younger sister, if you will, and quite a delicious bottle of wine, also getting great reviews by kosher and non-kosher critics alike. So you want to tell us a little about this and why you chose this?
Sure. Well, Kapsanis itself, I think, is producing some amazing wines, and I think a lot of people know about the Peraj Habib, which is really the flagship kosher wine out of the Kapsanis winery. Now, this Peraj Petita, as you said, is almost like its little younger brother. It's a much more fruit-driven wine, and I picked this one because, again, it's got a great QPR. This bottle should be bought for about $19.99, and they've gone ahead and they've given it a little bit more oomph in recent years. This is actually a brand new label for the Peraj Petita, if you didn't recognize the label, and I'm pretty excited about the new vintage of Peraj Petita.
Well, this is the wine before last. Wow, one of the Appalachian Cabernet Francs. What's interesting about Israeli wines, I didn't mention this, and I'm glad you brought this to us, Gary. I didn't mention this, but Israel is relatively young in its wine production, in the modern wine production, even though it's ancient. In fact, they say the oldest wine presses in the world are found in Israel, around the Hari Yehuda, the Judean hills. But this particular wine is one of the older vineyards, even though it's Cabernet Franc. And when we say older vineyard, it's about 30 years old. Carignan is another one that comes from this series, also about 30 years old. And for Israeli wines, that's pretty old. Tell us a little bit about this one.
The Cab Franc, you know, it's known to be a Bordeaux varietal, so you might have a little bit of Cab Franc, which is a grape, just like Cabernet Sauvignon or Merlot. You might find some Cab Franc in your Bordeaux, but a lot of people go for a Cab Franc, and this wine has a slightly higher acidity. It's a little bit lighter bodied, and I think that this might be an easier sipping wine than some of those bigger Cabernet Sauvignons that we all love to have with a nice roast.
Great choice. And finally, wow. Oh, actually, there's a couple more in there. Okay. Well, this wine is from the Ovadia Estate Vineyards, and Ovadia states, this is Morellino di Scansana. It's interesting, you know that this is one of my favorite wines, and how I missed this in the warehouse when we went through just now is like beyond me, but maybe it's just that I didn't see it going through. But the Morellino di Scansana is made out of 100% Sangiovese. This particular wine is made at a 1,200-year-old winery that's been in constant operation for 1,200 years, according to the producers, and pretty much by the same family, they say. So we'll see if that's true or not is beside the point. The wine is great, and that's not beside the point.
The wine is great, the value is great. It's under 20 bucks. I think it's even close to about $16, $17 if you find it at a really great price. And again, really easy drinking, fruity wine. We call these one of the crowd pleasers.
Oh yeah. Great choice. We spoke about this before. Baron Herzog represents some of the best values and most consistent quality throughout Pesach wines and wines in general. This particular wine is one of my favorites. You know, Gary and I talk about this a lot. We're getting a little bit what we call palate fatigue with all those heavy reds. So once in a while you want some delicious whites. This is a great example of that. You want to tell us what's interesting about this? This has elements of really much more expensive whites. For example, and we'll talk about this on another taping, but it has malolactic fermentation. Parts of it are sur lie, which means that it's fermented on the lees, and it's fermented, part of it is fermented in the barrel. So this represents a $12 to $15 bottle of wine that in some cases tastes like a $20 to $30 bottle of wine.
The only thing that I would add to that is it was an editor's choice for wine enthusiasts. So it's not just us crazy Yidden that like it. It's the people over at the professional establishments like the wine enthusiasts that love this wine as well.
We're down to the last two wines, Gary. Let's see what you've got. This first one is Malbec. It's from Fletcher Steele Los Andes. And you know who the producers of these, or the partner producer of this, is the Rothschild family. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know if I want to get started on the history of the Rothschild family. You might speak better to that. Speaking to the wine specifically, I love this wine because, again, it is a little bit different. It's a Malbec, and I get all kinds of interesting chocolate and mocha characteristics from this wine that I don't get from very many wines. And I really like it, and I've brought it to some people's house for Shabbos or for Yontif. They seem to really like it too. It's not one of your cheaper Malbecs. It's a bigger Malbec, but it's still a bottle that you should be able to get for right around 25 bucks or so.
And keep in mind, this is 14.5% alcohol, which sounds like a lot, and for Pesach, kosos, it is a lot, but that also tells you how rich, flavorful, powerful, and fruity, and fantastic, and profound this wine can be in the mouth. So thank you for that, Gary. And finally, Psagot. This particular Psagot is Psagot's Merlot. It's a really wonderful wine. You want to tell us about it? It also comes from Har Yehuda. By the way, the two areas of Israeli wines, just like kind of Napa and Sonoma, in Israel, it's Golan Heights and Har Yehuda, or the Judean Hills. This is from the Judean Hills. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, you know, the Judean Hills is the northern Judean Hills, there's southern Judean Hills, and we'll often talk about the ancient wine presses that we find around Israel, oftentimes specifically in the Judean Hills. And we talked about Yatir has an ancient wine press. Psagot also has an ancient wine press. And again, what I love about the Psagot wines is they're generally delivering great value, tremendous quality, and we've seen them improve year over year. I know a lot of people who say, oh, I don't like Merlot, I'm not going to waste my time on Merlot, and I'll tell them, try the Psagot Merlot. It's really delicious. And again, another wine that I think delivers value. You can get for about 20, 25 bucks a bottle, and it tastes like a $40 bottle of wine.
And one of the things about Merlots, especially Merlots from Israel, is that because of the slightly warmer climate, even though there are many cool areas in Israel, but as a general rule, because of the slightly warmer climate, the Merlots that are harvested at higher sugars, better acid balances, and really much more intense, rich wines. Kind of like the some of the French wines some of the French Bordeaux that are made primarily from Merlot.
That's right. If you don't mind, I'm going to take this with me, and we'll thank everyone for coming.
Thank you very much, and enjoy your Pesach. Chag Kosher v'Sameach.
Chag Kosher v'Sameach.